So I'm finally getting up and on the bike again. I've gotten so used to staying home that I got used to it to a point that every time I thought about going for a ride, I just sort of said, well, maybe tomorrow. But I finally did it. I did a 30-odd mile ride today, and I thought I'd talk about my experience with GPS devices over the years. It's been over 30 years. I have tried and played with all kinds of toys and gadgets. I'm sort of a gadget freak. And right now I'm actually sitting I'm sitting in my car. It's my sound booth, because if I do it anywhere in the house, I have to deal with my mom's TV being on very loud, that it'll always be in the background. And if I go outside, there's construction, hammering, banging, and saws going. So I did the ride, and I'm using a new Insta360 camera to get some new footage and playing with it. I want to get out and play with it some more. There's all kinds of things you can do with these cameras, and it's going to be a lot of fun if I can get my courage up to actually get going. I've gotten so used to being at home that I just can't seem, every time I think, I'll go for a ride tomorrow, and then all of a sudden, well, maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day, maybe next week, maybe when it's a bit warmer. So, this is going through Saratoga. It's a small little community, and the vineyards are aplenty everywhere. Wineries, restaurants, and it's still a nice little place to walk up and down the streets, catch the stores and the boutiques, and have a nice lunch, and maybe go wine tasting. And the roads in and around this area are fantastic. This is in the I guess eastern part of San Jose, and I'm not going to go up Highway 9, but I'm going to get onto it just a little bit and then take off. As you can see, I'm really having some fun with the 360 camera. It's amazing what you can do with these. I've got a C-clamp with a camera mount, a threaded camera mount on the lower frame of the F3. And I took one of the panel bolts out and put another double C-clamp with a ram arm that goes in between them. Only I took one of the clamps off, and I took one of the bolts out and put a ram ball in place. So just underneath the word Can-Am, you can't see it, but there's a C-clamp. So the selfie stick is held on by the base and up about 2-3 feet above it, which gives it the support that so it won't shake around. Even though the camera has steady features, it'll look like the bike or the vehicle you mount it to is shaking because the camera is wobbling. So this extra mounting makes it so that it doesn't do that. So as I'm getting into GPS, it's been, I can't remember when I started, but I was intrigued, and I've learned that when you get into an area that you've never been before, there's times when it's like, well, wait a minute, which way is north? I can't tell. So I know I've been on a few rides with friends where we've gotten in late at night. We pull off the freeway, we top off the gas tanks, we check into our hotel, and when we get up the next morning, we do about an hour's ride before stopping for breakfast. And we got on the road, and we literally were going in the same direction we came from. And I think I mentioned it a couple of times, and of course the fella says, no, we're fine. And about a half an hour later, guys, we got to turn around. We're going in the wrong direction. So having a compass was a very popular and handy device. And when I saw this Garmin 45, I thought, well, this is even more fancier than just a compass. And it's for marines and boating, so that when you get on the lake, you can find your favorite fishing spot and mark it, and then when you go back, you can go straight back to it again. Now I'm taking off on Highway 9 and going on a little road that'll take me back down to where I live, but you're going to see some pretty nice country roads. After the Garmin 45 had two features. It'll pretty much point you in the direction you want to go in. But the other thing is that it would have breadcrumbs. So I could meet up with friends, we could go to their house, and I could turn on the breadcrumbs. And then when I wanted to leave to get back on the freeway, I would follow the breadcrumbs out of the neighborhood and back to the freeway. It was quite a fun little toy. I also used it when we volunteered for multiple sclerosis, because we sometimes had to backtrack. We, the motorcycle riders, would monitor the bicycle riders, and sometimes we'd have to go and find stragglers that got lost. And when you see markings telling you which way to turn when you're going in the one direction, that's great. But there's no markings when you're going in the other direction. So when I got tired of that, I bumped up and I got what was known as a Garmin thru. It's a tiny little thing, monochrome screen, silent, and it only had freeways and expressways. And then eventually I bumped up to the 3 Plus. Now I couldn't tell you what the difference is. I don't remember. It's been that long ago. You could see satellites. You could see, I forget all of what it could do, but then I got the 5. Now I do remember the 5. I could hook it up to a computer and upload extra little map details of surface streets. So if I was like going to Bakersfield to someone's home, I could upload the data of the map so that it would silently tell me to turn off the freeway, then turn this direction and turn that direction. As I said, it was silent. It would beep, but on the bike you couldn't hear it. I couldn't hear it. And it was fun for a while. I enjoyed it, but a friend of mine got a Street Pilot. It had all the map data on it. It was still silent, had a much bigger screen. The problem is I really didn't want one for $1,200. But, I mean, it was handy, it was nice. You had to keep your eye on it. And of course it did have all the map data in it. I think it did. But I had what was known as a pocket PC made by Compaq. And I found something called a Navman. It's a sleeve that you put the pocket PC into, and it had a GPS antenna. It had the software, it was colored, it could talk and tell you where to go, but unless you wired it up to the bike system, you wouldn't hear it. And so I used it for a couple of years, and then the antenna, it literally took longer and longer to get a GPS fix. And eventually I tried just a sleeve to slide the Compaq pocket PC into and use a generic GPS antenna, and that worked for about a year. And it was great, but it's still, the one main problem is it wasn't waterproof. The Garmin's were waterproof, but this pocket PC was definitely not waterproof. So I had to cover it with a Ziploc bag. I learned a lot about GPS. I learned a lot about satellites. I learned a lot about tracking because the Garmin's could create breadcrumbs so you could track back to where you went. I used it a lot for when I was visiting friends, because getting into the neighborhood is one thing, but getting back out to the freeway, you could some of these neighborhoods were a bit complicated. So let's see, what else do I need to talk about? Some parts of these roads are still a bit saturated with water, and they've cleaned off a lot of the fall. We had fallen trees everywhere, trees falling down. It was a disaster. Even today they're still clearing up debris and stuff. But these GPS devices were just the basic. There wasn't anything fancy about them. You needed 3 satellites to get a fix, 4 or more satellites to get elevation. It took sometimes 5 minutes to actually get a fix before it could start. Mounting it was, well, just as inventive. I had to figure out how to stick it on the dash, stick it in the handlebars, and be able to, I had to stop. I couldn't touch it while I was riding. And I learned, because I had 2 different flip phones, and I mounted those to the end of the handlebar. And I had what was called cell set that connected the phone to the bike's radio system. But I still had to fiddle with it once in a while, and all of a sudden it would just stop working, and I could never figure out why. Well, lately, with the talk about vibration, now I think I know why they quit. They were on the handlebars, and the slight vibration you feel in the grips can actually do damage to electronics. And I had all these different devices. I was working with the Garmin 5, and then I switched to the Pocket PC, and then I finally got a TomTom. I got 2 TomToms, and mounting them, well, they were car TomToms, so I had to be extra careful with them with the motorcycle. But then Apple came out with their 3rd phone, which was the iPhone 3G. I was finally able to have all my gadgets in one device. It wasn't long before Garmin and TomTom had apps that made the phone a GPS just like the standalone units. $60 for TomTom, and eventually I got Garmin for $40, much cheaper than any of the standalone devices. Creating routes was so much faster, so much easier. Making a route in Genius Maps is similar to how you do it in Google Desktop nowadays, because I use Genius. In Sygic, you add waypoints and then you could rearrange them in the order you want to go. Rever can be used for navigation, and if you think you're going to be going out of cell service, you can download an area of map data. If you think you'll be out of cell service, then Google Maps, you can download map data, but it's just nicer to have Genius Maps and Sygic there to use. If your phone goes dead, if you turn it off for some reason and you're out of cell service, you're never going to get it back. And Rever is quite cool with a new feature that you can actually have it control your GoPro camera. So when you get into a certain area you've circled, and it'll turn the GoPro on and it'll start recording. And there are countless times when I have gotten somewhere, stopped for lunch, and then, oh shoot, I forgot to start recording. I mean, I've got a remote, but I just totally forget. I get too excited with the ride, and I just forget. So Rever has some really neat features, and they're getting better. It does work in the dash. If you get the grayed out screen at first, just close it out and then open it back up again. It will work fine after that. I don't get it, but it works. Now I'm going to go into the separate GPS apps and show how I get them to work and how I create routes. Genius does it one way, Cygic does it another way, and you can use a laptop for Rever. So this is how I make a route in Genius Maps. I can put in an address, if you know the address of where you're going to. You can put in an address or choose from one you've used before. And I think that maybe, I don't know, Tuolumne. Let's try that place. And navigate. Now the problem is...
In 200 feet, turn left at San Lucas Ave.
There's times when I don't want to go the way they want me to go. So, let me see. That's Mission Boulevard. And there's 680 and 580 Livermore. That's 580. Oh yeah, it is going the way I want it to go. But if I decided that I wanted to go this way, touch there, you get the bouncing thing. And
in 200 feet, turn left at San Lucas Ave.
You can change it, just like you would in Google Maps. And if you want to take a different route,
in 200 feet, turn left at San Lucas Ave.
You can change it. You can make it go anywhere you want, just as you would in Google Maps. And if you swipe, you touch the double yellow line at the bottom and swipe up, you can save the route and give it a name. And if you want to end the route, you just touch the end. If you've gone to a saved routes, you can, let's see, saved places, my routes. And you can choose from a route that you saved. And it'll just take you there the same way you did before. That's Genius Maps. A lot of times, though, when I don't know the exact route, I will zoom in to where I have an idea where it is. And let's see, try going here. I like finding roads as Highway 88. And I know there's a gas station here. Touch it, and you can navigate to it. And you can choose that route or that route, and then you can modify it if you want to. That's Genius Maps. This is Cygic. Cygic used to work the same as Genius Maps, but they've changed it. Genius has been around for a few years. Cygic is quite new, and they're constantly making changes. So you can put in an address. That's a route. I think it's a route. Get directions. No, it's not a route. I have to go to the favorites. But let's try this again. Cancel route. When you go here, you can touch that little heart right there. And if you've made a route, you can save it as a favorite. And then you can do the ride you want. And if you notice, it goes the way I want it to go, which is better than just going straight there. You get that little twisty bit. So if I want to zoom out, let's see, how about I go to Carson City and Minden again. And I'm going to go here. Try the Holiday Inn this time. Get directions. Now at the top here, I can add a stop. So I can go to the map and I can zoom out. Now, using a TomTom or a Garmin standalone unit, the refresh rate is a whole lot slower. And it slows the planning of the ride down a whole lot. So if I wanted, it's already taken me the way I want. Let's try this. Add a spot. See the little point at the bottom of that plus? That's where I'm going to go. The problem is, it wants me to go that way. So I go up here and I touch the line and I can, let's see, come on, there you go. Move it. So now it will take me from A to B to C. So you can rearrange the waypoints so that you go in the order you want. You can trash them out. You used to be able to touch and move, but they changed it. And then if you want to save the route, let's see, options. If you want to avoid bridges or toll roads or something, you go in here and you go route info, which is down at the bottom. Let's close that out and try again. See, route info. And you can make it a favorite and give it a name. And then whenever you want to go that way again, you just exit the route out, touch the heart, go to routes, and there's the route. Same thing. It's not that hard. I mean, a Garmin or a TomTom works the same way. They're no different. It's just a different unit. Rever is quirky. I've learned that when I try and make a route, let's see, I want to go to the, okay, let's see. If I want to go to, let's see, let's try going here. And it wants me to pick a kind, a type of route. Don't want off-road. So basically, A to B guidance, which is directly there. Twisty road, which means it will find the crookedest way to get there. And this way, I can go that way, but I can add a stop. Save for later. Come on. It's not working. Okay. Let me try this way then. I want to go. I don't use it very often, so I'm not sure, but I know that if you leave your house, because you're doing it like when you're at home or a restaurant, and if you leave your house, so you've got that there, and I want to add a point, so I'm going to add that, but I want to rearrange them, or I want to exit one out. So exit one out, and now I want to add another stop so that I can pick a spot here, but I want to go from there to there to there. So I touch that line and I can move it up. And you can edit it anyways, but when you are doing it from home, as I did first, it wants you to hit the waypoint. So if you put the route in, and as you leave home, you go to the gas station to get gas, and then start and activate the route, it will take you back home because you have to go to that waypoint first. So I've learned that you need to put the waypoint in exactly the spot you're going to be riding on. And if you're going to meet friends, then you put that place as the start if you know where you're going. Because if you get to that place and then start the route, it's going to want to take you back home again. And if you pass up a waypoint because it's not exactly where you rode to, it's going to keep telling you to turn around. Genius Maps, Sygic, TomTom, and Garmin will recognize that, okay, just keep going. You've gotten close to it, just keep going. Whereas Rever is going to want you to get that waypoint. But what you do is you save for later, and I know there's a way to make it, see, improve. There was a way that you could save ride, and what you do is this little ribbon up top here, touch that. Now it's a favorite, so that when you open up Rever in the bike's dash, you can choose the favorites. And of course you have to make sure you give it a name that means something to you, because their name will be Rever Ride whatever the date is. So if you want it to be the apple pie ride, or the highway whatever ride, or the museum ride, then give it that name. That way you know what the route you're going to choose is. But unless it's in the favorites list, you're not going to see it to choose in the dash. Now you can set it up ahead of time, I think, but I'm not sure if it'll start the recording. But if you want to just record the route that you're going to ride on, you can activate any route, and that will start recording. You can then go up and end the ride, but it will still record your route. It's the only way I figured out how to record a track, because it used to open up in the dash and have the record button, but they took that away. So in order to record the route, you have to activate something, and then it will start recording as well. And then you can just end the navigation part of it and then ride whatever you want. I've also had problems with GoPro. It's like I have to pair it every time I'm going to use it. And recently I've tried connecting it, and all I get is that. and I cannot connect it. It worked once, and I can't get it to work again. So Rever has still got a few hiccups, but otherwise, that's the way Rever works. One more thing about Rever is if you think you're going to be going into an area where you will lose cell service, you can touch the layers, and you can go down here and zoom out. I think you can zoom out. Yeah, zoom out. No, yeah, there you go. Zoom out. And that's the area of the map that you will download. And you can download it. And download. And therefore, if you go out of cell service, you'll still have the map data for Rever to use. Now, you just get that section, and you can't choose any more. So if you're going to continually ride in areas like on the west, you've got Nevada, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming. There's a lot of areas where there's no cell service. And you're going to keep doing this with Rever. With Genius and Cygic, you download it and you've got it. You can download the whole country or just the states you want. But with Rever, same thing with Google Maps. You can download a certain map section, and if you've got a route planned, then it'll download the data for you to use. But with Google, if you use it, you can't get it into the Spider Dash, but you're only going to get a route from A to B. You're not going to be able to modify it unless you create the route in laptop or your desktop version, and I find it difficult to carry the laptop with me everywhere I go. So this thing's taking a while. I think I'm going to cancel it. Don't need it. Also, when it comes to layers, if you turn on radar, if there was any rain, you'd see it. And because this is turned on, you'll see radar. And if you happen to be having it set up like this, when you open it up in the bike dash, you'll see the radar. The problem is you've got to zoom out a whole lot to see it, because when it's showing you zoomed in, you're not going to see it. You're going to be on some little road, zoomed in someplace, and you're not going to see the radar unless you zoom out again. And you can only zoom out so far. So unless you can zoom out a whole lot, you know, it's a work in progress. I mean, it's better than nothing, but you can get radar in the dash if you turn on the layer before you turn it on in the dash. Okay, here's the map and GPS apps in the dash. Get some music playing. Hit the button on the back. We've got Genius. Let's see, I remember what I'm doing here. Let's turn the radio off. I already had a route going and active in Genius Maps. It's better to do it that way unless you really remember to, when you create a route, to name it specifically. But I've already got a route set up. If I push down, I can exit the route. Let's zoom in a little and push the joystick in, and it ends the route. Alright, maybe I didn't push it in. Come on, there you go. And if you do a search with the arrow up there, you can, if you're moving, you won't get the keyboard like I just did now. I didn't get the keyboard. Normally I get the keyboard when I'm parked. But as there's a ride active, you can select a ride that you want to do. You can go down to push down my routes and select a route. Pick one, anyone. There we go. Keep the camera. Now, for some reason, you're on a ride like this and you need gas. You can get that magnifying glass up in the, there we go. And you can do a search for a gas station. You select that and then you go down to gas and select, and it'll come up with the closest gas stations to where you are. And you can select one and it'll, sometimes it'll add the destination. So it'll take you to the gas station and then keep you going on the route. This is Genius Maps. Push the joystick in and hold, and I go down to Cygic. Cygic has an ability to remember the route until you actually remove it or create a new one. Genius tends to forget after a while, so you really need to remember to rename it and name it something specific. Now you can see the lower left corner, the there you go. And so here you can go down and you can go to favorites if you want a favorite route that you've chosen. I don't think I have a favorite route. So I'm going to go back to search. I'm going to go back up to get rid of the keyboard and then select that as the destination. Now here you cannot modify the route. You can only do it on the phone. I don't know how you can choose between the one route or the other. But it's best to do it on the phone first, so when it comes up in the dash, it's already set to go. But you can move the arrow to the X if you want to stop the navigation. Now if I push in and hold, there's Rever. You can see that Rever comes up and it knows where you are. Push the joystick up and over to your favorites.
100 feet, turn left at San Lucas Ave.
And of course the other two GPSs are still giving me navigation. But push up, select turn by turn. Sometimes when you'll see this, and when you go to navigate, and it's working on it. Maybe I've got too many GPS apps open. But I've never seen this before. I've never had all the apps open at once. Let's try this again. Maybe it's just trying to calculate it. There you go. You see that? And sometimes it'll come up grayed out. You won't see the actual. Exit out of the app, push the joystick in and hold, and then just select it again, and you'll actually get the route. And if you go to there, you can see the whole route. And if before you plugged it into the bike, you activate the radar map layer in the app, you'll actually see if there's any radar around. So if you hit the joystick again, you zoom back into where you are. Now, the one thing with Rever is, as I said, you need to make sure you hit the waypoints, otherwise it'll keep telling you to go back. You can end the route, but it will still track your ride. So it's activated the tracking feature when you activate a route. So even though you've ended the ride, it'll still actually be tracking where you're going, which is part of the main reason you got Rever in the first place. But that's how the maps work.